A while back I did a Total War historical video looking into the accuracy of Egypt in Rome Total War. To this day it is my most successful historical video. Egypt in game has a roster that is by far the most inaccurate. And some of you may think it's just a bit of inaccuracy, it's not that bad. And although you are kind of right, and I do love how Egypt is actually shown in game, it gives it a unique feel, it is made to be in the Bronze Age, which is 2,000 years out of date. The inaccuracy is the equivalent of the Germans faction having Panzers, if you look at the year scale. After making the video, I knew this day would come. My time to come back to it, but instead as a video comparing it to Rome 2's Egypt. So let's begin. Is it a mess? Well, first we need to take a look into Egypt's background at this time. Basically, due to the fall of Alexander's empire, Egypt was under the rule of the Greeks, a foreign culture, which was certainly outnumbered in population, yet still managed to maintain control, much like what we saw with the British Empire in colonial regions. Egypt was a very diverse nation by this point, and it is one of the first examples where race dictates power in the military. The Greeks were at the top, holding positions of generals, officers and guards of royalty. When Greeks were to fight, they would often be put in the more expensive classes of the army, such as the heavy cavalry or the heavily armoured phalanxmen. Meanwhile, the local population was forced to fill in the ranks, lightly armoured, low positions, often used in situations that would be the most bloody on the battlefield. Why? Because their culture was dispensable compared to the rare Greeks, who shared ancestry with the rulers, the Ptolemies. This we see elsewhere in history, but Egypt was one of the first to really embrace this system. Not the first, but one of them. This we do actually see in game. The lower tiers of troops are the Egyptian cultured ones, cheap to represent their quantity, and light armour, if any armour is given to them at all. And the Greeks do control most of the cavalry, heavy phalanxes and bodyguards. However, historically there were a few exceptions. Certain cultured had their certain unique skills. Before the Ptolemies, the Libyans favoured heavy infantry, the Numidians missile cav, and the Cretans had their archers. Just a few examples. Local cultures that also came under the Ptolemaic kingdom were divided this way as well. This we see in game. Yes, the Greeks have most of the cav, as cavalry represents nobility or higher class throughout most of history, but still Numidian cavalry is present simply because they were good at it. The Greek culture, having limited experience at all in taming elephants, do not ride the elephants, and that is given to those cultures who did have the expertise. Usually, the local cultures would take up the skirmisher and missile role. However, some Greeks also start to fill this, such as Greeks from Crete, Cretan archers, because that was their skill. This we see in the Roman Empire also. It is a military class structure built on race, yet can also recognise and harness the skills of other cultures to maximise their effect on battle. We do not see this in Rome 1's Egypt. Their Egypt lacks these different peoples with certain skills, but that can be put down to the game's engine being limited. However, still, we see no Greeks at all. This is done to make the Egyptians seem more unique, the Seleucid Empire is the faction that uses both rosters, and if Egypt in Rome 1 was to do this also, then it would look too much like a Seleucid reskin, which is what it is accused of being in Rome 2, and why most of the community voted for Rome 1's Egypt to be the better version of Egypt. The truth is, neither of these games did it right. Rome 1 wanted to give it a more unique feel, so they went against historical accuracy. This made the faction fun, yet inaccurate, cartoony, and kind of comical. Mixed reviews. Rome 2 wanted the historical accuracy fans back, yet they made it feel too much like a reskin. Mixed reviews. The truth is that although Rome 2 got the faction right historically, there was no need for it to be a reskin, and although Rome 1 got the uniqueness of the faction right, there was no need to cut out the Greek presence. Both Egypt and the Seleucids recruited from so many different regions with so many unique cultures that there's no need for these armies to look so similar. There were clear differences that were not taken advantage of enough in Rome 2, and Rome 1 feared Egypt would be too similar to the Seleucids, so they cut out the Greeks for gameplay, when in reality, having 2 or 3 Greeks in their roster serving in the armoured and expensive roles would have made the faction much more diverse and less of a spam of one culture. The phalanxes were based off the same army. Historically, they were just a reskin, so that is okay to show in game, but not with the local units. Rome 2 fails to take advantage of the local cultures for their unique appearances and names. Both the Seleucid Empire and the Egyptians have hillmen, and camel spearmen for example, and other units that look more like reskins. What Divide et Impera does to perfect their Egypt is that it takes advantage of local historical cultures, such as Judean, Burkatian, Carian, Klerush, meaning colonial units, and Cilician, are present and used for both factions to make them feel more diverse. Some may say Rome 2 went for historical accuracy, and this limited them, but the truth is they did not take advantage of enough history available to create stronger gameplay, and Rome 1 has mods, such as Greek mod, which corrects Egypt and makes them still feel very unique and diverse, yet adds the history. So in conclusion, yes, Rome 2 is more accurate and so claims victory in this episode, but their Egypt also fails. In Rome 3 Total War, the Egypt needs to have the Greek units from the days of Alexander, yet emphasises the variety of cultures under their banner. There's no need for them to have to borrow from the Seleucids and then get accused of having a reskin. There's more than enough variety here for both empires. Anyway, that is all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. I've been MELKOR, check out my other historical videos also. It would be really interesting to see what they are to do with Egypt next time round. But until tomorrow's video, goodbye.